Hello, I am Dr. Mary Hinson, and welcome to my TED Talk. I would like to share a bit of background in regards to myself as far as how I became a counselor. I am going to be really transparent. I actually started off with wanting to be an attorney and went to school for criminal justice and psychology, but then I really fell in love with the psychology aspect of my studies, and then decided to go that route. So at the school I was at, we didn't have I was not going to the master's program in psychology. I opted for the counseling program. It's a newer program, and the faculty really helped me engage better there and become more aware of what counseling was. And so when I thought about my personality and the possibility of me being there for it to work with my personal life, I settled with the counseling program. So with the counseling aspect, usually we're looking for someone who likes to engage with other people. And that totally was me when I thought about who I was. Higher word count, always had on my report cards from early age talks too much. And so trying to figure out a way to pull that into more of a positive that worked for me. Counseling was the way and to connect with others that I wanted to support and help. I come from a line of individuals who work with service and supporting others in the medical field. And so I decided to go with counseling because I was able to marry the two things that were important to me. With the counseling field, I decided to dive into community counseling because it was more flexible. With the school counseling aspect, I saw it, and my family was more of a like stick with the job and stay there and retire and get pension kind of thing. So for school counseling, it makes sense when I talked to them about it. But community counseling definitely would give me more opportunity to dive into entrepreneurship and also have a means to support my family. And so counseling it was. So aside from the professional part of counseling, who was I as an individual? At that time, I was a single parent, had a little girl only at that time, and really struggle with the balance of studies, being a new counselor, and being a parent. And so as a single parent at the time who had support from my family, but the day-to-day was definitely more challenging because I was doing community work and working with families and youth, and oftentimes those hours were in the evening when kids get out of school, later afternoon, evening. And so with me having my own child, that was really tough for me because I wanted to be able to pick up my child too, or work on homework earlier, start dinner sooner. But it was difficult to get a good balance of that with the evening work essentially that I was doing by doing intensive in-home counseling at the time and working at another community agency. And so I really struggled with this idea of trying to bring positive energy or restructure cycles with families and youth, and then feeling like I'm giving my own child the short end of the stick in some ways, picking her up 2 minutes before after school is closed, or having to get someone else to pick her up though I'm here with this other family. And so that was really tough for me. Or even if I didn't have as much patience with her at a point in time, but then I'm talking about these ways to communicate more effectively and being more patient, with your young people. And so as a new counselor, so that was pretty tough at the time to try to handle both of those without adequate support or just awareness of what the type of work was going to require of me at the time. So that was one part. With just being a parent or being a single parent. Another consideration at that time was my age. At the time I was 22, something of that nature. So lots of gray hairs ago. And I actually, funny enough, I only had maybe 2 gray hairs at that point at the front. And I would feel the need to part my hair so you could see those two gray hairs so people would think I was older than I really was, because I was working with these families, sometimes grandparents who were taking care of young people as well, or at these tables with these professionals. And there was an energy there that, I was being naive about how things operated, or I was really young. I had one grandmother one time say to me, "I have kids your age." And I don't think she was trying to hurt my feelings or anything of that nature, but there was this hesitancy to join with me or believe or trust in me because of the age difference and how she perceived what I could offer her or provide her family. And so that was something else that I really had to get comfortable with in that question coming up, or how many kids do you have? Or what if, a clinician doesn't have any kids and you still want to work with families? Or if you're not married and you're working with couples. And so that contrast that can come up sometimes is something that it was challenging for me to get settled in and get comfortable with responding to in sessions or intakes. And so I really had to get comfortable with the idea of relying on my life experience and my professional training, and then my work experience as a counselor to help ease people's concerns about working with me. So aside from the age part and aside from the parenting part, then we come to who I present as far as culturally. I remember the first time I opened my first practice, and a gentleman came in, and he immediately, upon seeing me, said, "Can I see the owner of our business at the time?" And he came in to sell something, I believe it is. And at the time, I just said, "How can I help you?" And he's like, oh, it's you. And so the sting of that, or the processing of that, didn't really happen for me until after he left. But the idea that I was young at the time and, had a business or knew what I was doing, or I was licensed, none of that mattered, in that moment. And it's how you are perceived, and that can impact how you view yourself. And so that was the start of a list of people not really setting the bar high, for you, or expecting that you can hold your own in some spaces. And so there's definitely been countless times where someone has assumed that I don't know what I'm talking about, or, grilling me about my credentials, but not my counterpart who looks different. I was working closely with the white woman at the time, and we were working with the same family. The family's perception of her was so different. The engagement was so different than their engagement with me. And what I had to still do is still be professional and broach it in such a way so that they don't feel threatened, but that I've picked up these differences, and how am I going to do that in a professional way to help ease their angst in working with me, or people who did not want to work with me once they saw me or heard my voice, and made an assumption, declined to work with me with no other reason than just, preference in that way. And so getting comfortable with that too is not easy. It definitely requires you to have support from peers or supervisors who can support you or guide you in those moments that you may second guess yourself, because of that. So all those things, though, definitely helped inform who I was as far as the clinician that I am today. All of those things helped with my professional identity as a clinician, because I'm more aware of those things. I'm able to prepare people better for those things. And then I'm also more comfortable with either broaching those things in session or in a professional manner with other counterparts or individuals who are working with a client or family that I see. And so with my identity, with my professional identity, I'm unapologetic at this time about who I am and how I look, or how I may be perceived to the world as far as who I am. And then in the counseling session, it really made things more empowering to me, because counseling, it was not a go-to, especially for people of color, for years, for lots of reasons. And so by me being more representative in the counseling field of a sector of people who have been glossed over or ignored or mistreated or misdiagnosed, it absolutely has been helpful with those relationships, or just the perspective that I can offer in support of those who have had some similar experiences.